Welcome to our weekly live discussion broadcast. My name is Curtis Anderson. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Today's topic for discussion is giving yourself permission to fail. Being a creative, no matter what kind of creative work you do, whether it's dancing, fine art, acting, writing, is a challenging thing. Show business and entertainment, in my personal opinion, and many people share it, is the greatest job in the world. You get to pretend and make things up for a living. And once you get to a certain level, that living is pretty nice. But getting there is not an easy course to plot. So you need to give yourself that permission to fail to be able to get to where you want to go. And to discuss some real world ways about how that happens, I have brought myself, actress wife Renee, and our good friend, writer Jamie Jessup. Now, originally, you may remember from last week, Dean Ethington had originally suggested this topic. But I got a text from Dean today letting me know that he's too hungover from last night to be able to be on camera today. He has given himself permission to fail as far as appearing on today's live broadcast. So I'm going to bring up our winners now. Renee, since you are a returning panelist to our broadcast, why don't you go ahead and start?
Hi, I was muted. I'm Renee Bordelon, and I am an actress and performer, and I do like to write, and I will talk about more later about how I need to give myself more permission to fail with my writing. And that's all for now.
Jamie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, my name is Jamie Jessup. I am a theme park performer and a writer, screenwriter, and sketch writer here in Los Angeles. And I fail so hard on the daily. I feel very confident on this topic.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Now, it's strange to bring up this topic of conversation because, and I'm going to speak specifically for the Los Angeles area, there is so much swagger and so much bravado that goes along with even just walking the streets of Los Angeles that even acknowledging this, I'm sure, has more than a few feathers in a ruffle in the fact that there could possibly even be failure. But failure literally happens all the time. And just so we have a proper vocabulary, so everybody knows what we're talking about, so it's not like it's not any kind of confusion. When I talk about failure, I talk about the fact that you make an attempt to do something that may not go the way you expect it to or the way you want it to the first time around. It does not mean that it probably means you've fallen on your face, but it doesn't mean you're done for good. Because Lord knows if I stopped every time I failed, I would not have been an actor at all. It just wouldn't have gotten very far. So in the light of trying to break the ice and provide a little bit of framework, I had a really rough 2012, rough enough that I actually wrote a complete blog about it when Renee and I lost financing on 3 projects on the same day. And within an hour, we found out that we had lost all of the money for everything that was coming up. 6 months worth of work was gone. Now, it's a complex history about how we got there. But the fact of the matter is, when we got down to brass tacks, it was a failure on my part not to be able to secure enough backup or redundancy so that when we got that phone call, everything didn't just fall completely to pieces. But I learned from that. And since then, it's been much easier to be able to get things going, to understand where the pressure points are on something like that, on any kind of financing or building a project. And now nothing will ever hit as hard as that particular thing hit. Renee or Jamie, do you have any stories to kind of break the ice on this? Jamie, I know you do. I'm going to go to Jamie because yours is actually pretty big. Yeah.
Oh my God, I've got like the big keynote failure, of course. God, other big failures that I learned from, like bangs. Bangs, my marriage falling apart, mostly the bangs. That was the worst. Thing is, like, you know that Julia Cameron book, Artist's Way?
Yes.
There's that catchphrase, which is so precious to me. It's leap and the net will appear. You have to keep leaping and eventually you become your own net. And that's so important. My big lesson that I got after said marriage fell apart, I always, since I was little, wanted to be out in Los Angeles and be a writer. Like that was always my goal. And I had come out here with my surprise soon-to-be ex. Marriage fell apart. The surprise crashed and burned, and I had to go back home to Florida, which is a terrible place to be. And I was there, and I didn't know how I was going to come back. I didn't know how I was going to get back to come to be where I needed to be to fight for my dream. And because I'm a performer at heart, as well as a writer, I went back to my roots and started working at theme parks. And there was this audition at Disney for an improv clown role, which who doesn't love clowns? So I went, and I was a little loopy from exhaustion and just chronic depression. But for some reason, I did a parkour demonstration that really impressed them. I don't know parkour at all, but they thought that was hilarious. So they cast me in this lead role in the sparkling new tentpole show at the new Fantasyland area of Magic Kingdom. And all of a sudden I was making more money than I could have, like, ever. I hadn't had income for a while. And this was a big change for me. So I sublet an apartment closer to Disney, wouldn't have to drive. I'm learning this show, and pretty soon it becomes apparent that I'm in over my head. It started as an improv show and became a dance show.
Ooh.
And then it became like a dance show with blocking. Curtis, you've seen me. I'm like a newborn giraffe.
It's true. It's
awkward.
true.
It's hard to watch. And I just, every day I'd show up, go, and one day I'm watching this disappointment on the director's face as he's trying to teach me blocking. Then I got served my actual divorce papers at work. Such a great way to go through rehearsal. And then the next day they're like, we really like you, but you're not in a good place right now for this. And oh my God, I was devastated. I'm like, how? I have an apartment that I can't pay for now. I have this new job. But fortunately, Disney, they were so sensitive. They were so kind about it. And they knew. They actually gave me a severance package.
Nice.
So there was a chunk of money that I was not expecting for being such a screw up. And then I get home to my apartment and there's a message on my door that's a note from the bank saying they'll pay me another sizable chunk of money if I can move out of this sublet apartment within the next 10 days. Those two chunks of money combined gave me exactly what I needed to get back to LA. And I've just been swinging dicks out here since I got here the second time around. So had I not failed, I wouldn't have been able to pursue my true dream. And so I think just putting yourself out there and taking that clown job, you never know.
Yeah, that's very nice. That's very nice. Renee, I feel like you've got a story or two on this too. Let me get you unmuted.
Yeah. I have failed many times. I too have failed at Disney. I won't tell that particular story. There's not much story to it. There was stuff I wanted to do, and they didn't agree that I should do those things. And so eventually I left one department, went to another department, stayed there. That's a whole other story. But speaking of Disney, I used to audition for their bigger stage shows at the El Capitan Theater that they do there. And when I was young, I auditioned for a few of those. And I've never been a great auditioner, and I was really bad when I was the age that I was then. And I basically went to a few. They seemed to really like me. The last one I went to, they said, "We really like you. We think you have a lovely voice. You're adorable, but you're just a little too green still. But keep working on it. Keep coming back. We really, really like you," which is actually really great feedback. but I didn't really know how to take it. And I didn't really understand what they meant when they said I was too green. Too green at what? Like, what exactly? And it was probably just everything. I was just green. And I see it now, but at the time I didn't. And so I actually didn't keep auditioning after that, even though I should have. Like, they specifically said, we want to keep seeing you, please keep coming in. And I didn't. So I think if I had given myself more permission to fail back then, I would have done a lot more, a lot sooner. And I kind of still, I don't want to say beat myself up about it still, but it's one of those lessons where they basically told me, we do like you, we want to keep seeing you. And I was like, well, you don't like me enough. And I just gave up. And I think it's an important lesson to keep going. I mean, sometimes you're going to get good feedback that tells you to keep going. Take that that good feedback and keep doing it. If you're an actor and you're going into the same casting directors all the time, but you're not booking, but they keep bringing you back, that's a good thing. And I think that's a lot of people, they think, oh, but I didn't book it. But if they are keep bringing you back, and if you keep getting callbacks, like, those are good things. Those are wins, even though you don't book the job. And so I think it's kind of also important to reframe what you think is a failure versus a win, and to let yourself feel the failure feelings, but know that it's actually making progress. I think that's a part of allowing yourself to fail, is let yourself feel it, but then also know that that isn't really failure, and that you're going to keep going and keep trying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, not a lot of people know this, but Thomas Edison, he destroyed, like, completely failed at least several hundred theme park auditions.
He does have a very popular saying, though, that says, I have not failed, I've just had 10,000 tries that did not work. And I'm paraphrasing, but that is a legitimate quote. And I think that there's a very strong reality that goes along with that, because continuing to try and continuing to move forward and continuing to make any kind of progress means that even if it feels like failure, it's actually moving in the correct direction. Because every time something, that's one of the things that I feel like gets lost in people trying to have an entertainment or a creative career. Every attempt is already 100 times more than somebody else has tried, because people feel like entertainment is an impossible dream, and it kind of is. There are very few jobs for the number of people who want to actually work at it. However, assuming that you have the ability and assuming that you have the persistence, there is a space in the entertainment community and in the creative community for nearly everyone, as long as they aren't afraid to keep moving forward and trying to do it. Now, it may not be the glamour job that you think you want. You may not be a movie star like Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie. You may not be a regular on television, but maybe you do become a one-man entrepreneur doing a YouTube show. Maybe you've got a very popular podcast. Maybe you write very popular blog articles. But every step you take can help lead to the direction that you need to go. There is another platitude that gets thrown around a lot, and it is so cliche, but cliches have meaning. And it is that you learn most from when you fail, not when you succeed. And that's 100% correct. If there's anything I learned from being a child actor, it's that I didn't know anything until I got into my awkward phase and stopped booking like a kid. Just for a little bit of context, children can book so much easier than adults can because they're cute. Expectations are really low. And if you are any kind of good, then you will be scooped up. They know they can rely on you, and they will work you until you are no longer a kid. When you become a late teenager to an adult, expectations rise. I got away with making faces and falling down from age 8 until about age 19. And I didn't have to do much more. I didn't have to be better than that. And it's not that I didn't want to be better than that. It's just that it had worked for 11 straight years. Why wouldn't it continue to work? And when it stopped working and I actually had to be an actor, that's when my development kicked into overdrive, and I actually started becoming an actual actor after that. I feel like I'm dominating the conversation here.
I love the Edison quote. There's another famous American patriot, Tim McGraw. Yeah, it was either him or that other guy in the hat. One of them, maybe Garth. I don't know. My dad told me, because he listens to that crap. He said there's that song, "Win Some, Learn Some."
Yeah.
I really
You're a country music fan.
Yeah, writing is my passion, but my bread and butter has been theme park performing for, God, like years and years now. And I'm so lucky because I love my job and it fuels me creatively. I'm very, very fortunate. And Disney not so much, but other theme parks have taken me in and found a place for me. And prior to that, though, before, when I was in my awkward phase, I guess, I would audition for everything, and they give me little spots, like I got to be a starfish in the Macy's Holiday Parade, or I got to be a firefighting clown for something. I was a bush for Horror Nights, very proud of that. But like, I could never get like the big, like full-time bread and butter roles. But what that taught me from like not getting what I wanted was maybe I should take an improv class. Maybe I should take a dance class. Maybe I should, you know, read these books and watch these other performers. And getting rejected so much, really, it didn't defeat me. It just kind of motivated me more. And I think that's important to like not take anything personally. It's not about you. And if you can get that learning experience from a no, then that no is something positive for you.
It's true. It's true. There's also that whole, I want to say it's a Nike commercial that's all about people who have failed and gotten better. And they want to say, do you know what, do you know how to be the best? You need to not make the first cut of the team, or you need to, you know, not get your first walk-on role. And there is something to that for sure, that you learn when you fail, and you know now what you need to make better. Like if you don't try at all, and I think this is kind of the whole point of this conversation, is if you don't try at all, you'll never know what needs to get better. Our friend Jeff Garvin has said that too about his books and with his writing. Like you have to write and then have someone else read it and give you feedback to know what you need to work on. And it's also, you don't always know what you need to work on. So when your audience, or the people that you want to be your audience, say, oh, we need you to fix this or tweak that or work on this, that's good information to have. That's power. That's something that you can take and change and work on. But you have to put yourself out there to get that back. You'll never get it just sitting at home. I say that as someone who sits at home a lot. So I feel very strongly that it gets you nowhere just sitting at home. But yeah, when you put yourself out there, and then there's also the pleasant surprises where you put yourself out there and you think, I don't know why I'm doing this. And someone says, you're exactly what we want. And then that's also how you find your place and your strengths as well. So I agree that is something that, you know, you have to just put yourself out there, know that you might fail, but you also may succeed, and give it a shot.
Yeah, what Curtis had said at the beginning about, you know, the things collapsing, the 3 bad newses on the same day, and just knowing that, oh, he's never going to let it get that bad again. That's a good thing about hitting like a rock bottom in any sort of story, is like, you learn from it, and you know that no matter how bad it gets, you're not going to let yourself get to that point. And having friends, having people in the same field as you that are supportive, they're going to let you try. Like the show that Curtis and I did together, he let me go out there with cat whiskers on my face one night just because I thought it'd be funny and no one else did. But he gave me permission to give myself permission to fail. And like, you learn, and like, you know, if you don't try, you'll never know. But having a safe, supportive space, good friends, that's incredibly helpful.
I agree with you 100% on that, and I'm glad that you felt you were given permission, because that's good. That's good. I do think that, and we talked a little bit about this last time. Having a very strong support system is key to feeling like you can give yourself the permission to fail. Because if there's one thing that will freeze everybody up, it's that fear that if I do something wrong, or if I do something out of the norm, I will not be accepted, I will be ostracized, and I will never be allowed to try again. And 9 times out of 10, it just isn't true. It just isn't true. You've got to take the steps that are going to get you to the bigger thing. Now, there are things in the world that give that kind of perception. We hear about directors going to movie jail if they have a really bad premiere. We hear about actors that get sidelined, usually because of their own behavior, but still, these are moments of failure that can reinforce the fear that happens inside people's heads before they decide to do anything. And I think that the most beneficial thing to take out of that is, by the time you're seeing somebody being put in movie jail or whatever, they've already done so much leading up to that kind of hit is not going to be their downfall by any way, shape, or form. It's just another hurdle on a step that keeps going. Does that make sense? Did I ramble?
Oh my God, I would love to have like the joy of a shitty national movie premiere. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. I think that's definitely, like, you have to keep taking steps, and I think that's the whole point of what Curtis was saying. Sorry, I keep looking over because we're in the same room, for those of you who don't know that. And also, our dog is being really demanding, and so both of us are taking turns to try and keep the dog from barking during this. So
one of these, they're low maintenance.
I know. Well, we have one, and yours actually looks like my brother's cat, Vader, who is awesome. He looks just like that. So yeah, I also think too, another failure story of mine is Erin Stegman, who was a guest last week, is a writer and she's also a performer, and she does a lot of stuff, and she is just hustling and working, and she has given herself permission to fail and tried so many things, and so many of them have taken off, but in ways different than she originally planned, I think. And she did a writing workshop last year, I want to say, and I signed up. It was for screenwriting, and I said, I really want to take this workshop, but I don't want to write. I don't have like a screenplay idea. I just kind of like want to write stories. And she said, this will be great for that. Take it for that. So I started just kind of writing, and at first it was really kind of just come up with ideas and brainstorm and I was coming up with all these great ideas, and I was feeling really creative. And then it was like, okay, send me pages of your, but I was like, I was writing like little short stories and just stuff that was so different than what everyone else was working on. And I felt like I didn't want to send her something that wasn't a full story or wasn't where it was supposed to be by that time in the workshop. And I think too, because I knew her, there was that kind of weirdness. I think it's always harder for me with friends. You like become more embarrassed than with a stranger for some reason. And, so I never sent her anything to read. I never got her feedback. But, and so in that sense, I totally failed the workshop, and I didn't ever really complete the main tasks of the workshop. But that workshop did get me writing every day. And I wrote other stories, and I did write some neat stuff. And I actually did write a couple short script kind of things that could be adapted into a script. And I felt really good about what I did, but I still felt kind of like I failed in that I didn't ever give her anything to read, and I didn't do that part of it. So sometimes you fail in ways, though, that help you in other ways, and you just never really know how it's going to turn out. Like, it was really a great experience, but she probably was like, Renee just kind of dropped the ball and didn't finish anything. But for me, it was actually a really good experience, even though I wish I had let her read some of it and gotten her feedback on it. I still just got that creative flow again, and I did come up with some neat ideas that I would like to one day do with Curtis. So yeah, you just gotta give it a shot and try things, because even if they end in a way that you don't think they will, you can still get something out of it.
Excellent. So we are coming up on a half an hour, which is pretty strong considering that we're talking about failing.
We all had coffee.
I know, right? It helps. It helps. Is there any last minute advice that you would give to people in regard to letting themselves fail, to kind of tap out here?
Yeah, my, I guess, button would be, it's about ego. It's about ego. You can let go of that for a second. Don't be afraid to look foolish. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to fall on your face. You know, once you can separate yourself from what you hope people think of when they see you and just surrender that, you can accomplish so much more. When I've let go of my pride has been my defining moments, I think, for me. So I say just try everything.
Nice. Nice. Renee?
I would agree with that. I agree with that completely. It does. It comes down to your ego. It really does. And wanting to protect yourself, and just know that by ignoring your ego, you can get out there and just fail successfully. Like, you just have to just let it go. You really do. And you have to face the fear. And one of the things that has been a theme in a lot of these talks has been the book, The War of Art, and they talk about the resistance and getting over the resistance. And it's about that. It's about knowing what your excuses are and knowing that they're all bullshit. And so just, if you want to do it, you have to just do it. And there's no other way to do it. You have to just start doing it. Take classes, sure. You know, do as much preparation and training as you can, but then you have to just put yourself out there and start trying, and also learn as you go, because that's the best way to learn, is on the job and in the process of.
Excellent. The only thing that I'm going to add to that is that there isn't a person on this panel or working in this industry right now that hasn't felt the fear and anxiety that you are feeling. It may be for different things. And I know that pit of your stomach, dread and fear that goes along with this. It's not that we're immune to it. It's that we've faced it and found out that once you punch through it, things are a lot better on the other side. And you have to trust that, even though it's terrifying, it truly is. I know it can paralyze you, because it has paralyzed me before in the past. If you can get through it, the other side is so much easier, and it makes you feel silly for doubting yourself in the first place. You truly do feel like an idiot for ever doubting the fact that you could do it at all. And so if you can just trust yourself, just do it once. Just do it once. And I promise you, like any good drug dealer, first time's free. and then you're going to be willing to pay for it every single time after. It's addictive how good it feels to be able to break through that wall. And that alarm means that we have killed a full half hour. Hey, Jamie, where can people find more of your work on the internet?
Well, thanks for asking, Curtis. I'm a blogger as well. In fact, my blogs have been turned into a screenplay, which is now a finalist at an international film festival. So more
congratulations.
Next time. Thank you. If you'd like to read these award-winning blogs, there's a lot of dick stuff in there, so enjoy. You can find me at calamityj.blogspot.com.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Renee, darling, light of my life, where can we find you?
You can find me at Renee's Revolution on Instagram, and at Curtis's website as well. I am part of that, and you can find me there. And on Twitter at Renee Bordelon.
Perfect. And of course,
also, we're literally in the same room.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. We are literally in the same room, which is why I'm putzing back and forth with all the hoo-ha and the whatnot. As usual, you can find me on curtisanderson.com, as you'll see in the lower third, and of course at our YouTube channel, which you are watching right now. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you have the means, please check out the Patreon. The more patrons that we have, the bigger productions that we can do. And we do have sketches and music videos and things that we do have on the calendar. We just need to get some funds to be able to get those up and going. So check those out. If you're watching on YouTube, you will see it around the edges. And we will not be having a live discussion next weekend because Renee and I will be traveling. We're heading back down to California for a short while so we can go see Hamilton. What? And also visit our families who say they love us. So no live discussion next week, but make sure you subscribe and check out everything else that we've got going on at the channel. We'll see you soon.